All right. Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's class, and we are going to talk about JavaScript arrays and object data type. Okay, and we've talked about strings, we've talked about numbers, we've talked about booleans too in as classes, that's the classes before this one. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at objects and arrays. And I think we are also going to talk a little bit about Git and GitHub and how they work too. But let's start with JavaScript arrays and object data types. So let me give an introduction to it. In real life, we maybe when we want to buy something, right? We have a shopping list that we use to reference what we are going to buy. Another classic example is when you were in school, your class prefect used to write names of noisemakers, or if you were a class prefect, you used to write names of noisemakers, right? And then you write it in a list. So number one, you write the person's name. Number two, you write the person's name, and so on and so forth. Also, in programming, we have something similar to that, right? And in JavaScript, it's called an array. So an array can store a list of data. So now that data can be anything. That data could be a string. That data could be a number. That data could be a boolean. That data could be a function. That data could be an object. That data could be an array too. Okay. So that's how JavaScript data array type works. It can be used to store any of those values. Okay, then those values are numbered just the same way you number your names of noisemakers, right? But in JavaScript, the numbering starts from 0 instead of 1. So if you have a string, let's say you have 2 values in your array, right? Maybe you have a string and maybe an object. That string, which is the first value in that array, has the index of 0, while the object has the index of 1, and so on and so forth. So as you keep adding to that object, sorry, that array, the length of or the size of that array keeps growing, right? Then also, it's not every time you might want to save the values of what you're working with in an array. You might want to give them a name, right? So that's where objects come in. Okay, so objects are just key value pairs, or some people say if you're using Python, you say name value pair. So, but JavaScript, they are called key value pair. So the key is what you name your object, while the value is the property that object name is concerned with. Okay, so that's the summary or the breakdown of whatever of JavaScript arrays and JavaScript objects, right? So let's see how this can be used in programming, right? We've been talking, so let's now take action and learn. Okay, I hope you guys can see my VS Code, even if it's really small. Let me increase the size. Now, let me clear this out. I know we wrote some notes about arrays, right? Okay, we said arrays are lists, right? Are lists that contain a list of elements, or arrays can contain lists of elements, right? So each value in an array is called an element, no matter what that value is. Okay, each element is, or each value in the array, in an array, is called an element. Now, and also arrays are zero indexed. And I remember we said if we want to create an empty array, we can say const, maybe I'd say students should be equals to that. So this is me saying the student should be equals to an empty array, an array that doesn't contain any value. Okay. So this is how to create an empty array. I can also manually add people's name to that array. So for instance, I could say Celestine Lovett. Okay. Now, Celestine and Lovett, in this case, are elements in this array. And Celestine has the index of 0. Lovett has the index of 1. If we want to print out this array, what we would then say is console.log. Then you'd say students. Let me clear this out. And of course, to run that, you'd say node script. And there you have it. You have your two elements, right? Or the array being printed out. Now, how about if I want to access just one element in that array? For example, I want to access Celestine, but I can't just say console.log student Celestine. I have to access now. The way I can access these values is by using their index. We know that Celestine has the index of 0, while Lovett has the index of 1. Now, if I want to access Celestine, I'll say students at the index of 0, and then I'll come and print it. Of course, you see that Celestine is being printed. And if we change this to 1 and come and run the script again, you see that Lovett is the one now being printed. Okay. So I hope nobody has any question. If you have any question, you can write it on the comments. My eyes is on the chat or comment section of the call now. Okay, so since there's no other question, we can continue. We also talked about how we can add to an array and how we can remove from an array. But let me clear this out. And let me remove this for now. So we can add in different ways to an array. We can add to the beginning of an array. We can add to the end of an array. We can add in between an array, and we can also delete from the beginning of an array. We can delete from the end of an array, and we can also delete between an array, like in between the array. Okay. Now, if you want to add to the beginning of an array, you're going to use the push method. For example, I could say I want to add Victor to that list of students, right? So I'd say students dot push, and then I'll then say Victor. Okay. Doing that is going to add Victor to that array. So after doing that, I can then print. I could then say console.log students. Now, doing this, you'll see that we now have Victor, Celestine, Lovett, and Victor on that array. Okay. Then what if we wanted to add from the beginning of the array, not the end, right? We already have it here, right? So I think we will just go over them. So we've added from the beginning, let's add from the end. So adding from the end, we would then say on shift. So instead of using push, we'd say on shift. Okay, so on shift, and then I clear this out, and then I run the code again. You see that now the element is being added at the beginning of the array and not the end. Okay, so then how can we remove from the end of the array? We can use pop to remove. So pop doesn't accept any arguments. By the way, whatever you put into these brackets, right? Any bracket, right, is called the argument. Is called the argument. For example, this log accepts a data argument, right? So the data could be any. So what this means is you can put in a number here, you can put in a string, you can put in an array, you can put in an object, whatever you want to put, it's going to work here, right? While some functions or methods select what they accept. Some might accept just booleans alone, some might accept numbers alone, some might accept strings, and the rest. So, but pop doesn't accept any arguments. So if we do this and then we run the code, I think I should do that before and after thing. So I'd say console.log. I would say before, then I'll say students, then I'll say after. And then students. So if we do that, you see before we have Celestine and Lovett, but then after calling pop, Lovett is being removed. Of course, if we want to remove from the beginning, right? So instead of removing Lovett, if I want to remove Celestine instead, because Celestine is closer to the beginning of that array, I would say students dot on shift. Oh, sorry, students dot shift, which is going to then remove from the beginning. So if I do that, let me clear this and then come back here and run it. You'd see that Celestine was the one being removed. Okay, so we did that. I also talked about getting to know the length of an array. So if I say console.log, right? Now, getting to know the length of the array is getting to know the number of elements that array has. So if I say I want to know students.length. So this students.length is going to give me the total number of elements inside this array. Okay. And in this case, the number of students in the students array, or the number of students, students in the students array. Also, I know that this topic is going to confuse people, which is how do we delete from the middle of an array, or we can delete in between an array. So maybe let's take, for example, let me add like two other names. And let me see who's on the call. Okay, I think I'll add Martins, Precious. Yep. So we have that number, and then I want to remove Martins. Okay, I just want to remove Martins. I don't want to remove other people, just Martins. So here's how it would work, right? I think I should do the before and after stuff. Let's say before this is how student was, and then I think I'll just duplicate this and I'll call it after. So in between here is where I want to work the magic to, it's not magic though. I want to write the code to delete Martins. Okay, now first you want to find out the position of Martins. What is the position of Martins in this array? Position of Martins is 2 because Celestine has the index of 0, Lovett has the index of 1, and Martins has the index of 2. So you would then say students dot. Now, the method used to delete from an array is called splice. Right. Now, this splice accepts, first, it accepts an argument for the position you want to start deleting from. Remember that the position is 2, Martins. 2. I'll say position 2, comma. The next argument I want to put here is how many values do I want to start deleting from the index of 2? Do I want to delete only one thing, one element? Do I want to delete 2 elements? If I say I want to delete 2 elements, it will delete Martins and it is also going to delete Precious. But I want to delete only Martins, which means I want to delete only one element. So I'll then say at the position of 2, I want to start deleting one element alone. And if I do that and I clear my terminal and I come back and run NodeScript, you'll see that, of course, Martins was here before, right? But now we just have Celestine, Lovett, and Precious. Now, if I wanted to delete Martins and Precious at the same time, I would say at the index of 2, which is this index, I want to delete this person and this person. So I'll say at the index of 2, I want to delete 2, which is Martins and Precious. Okay. Doing that, if I run NodeScript, you see that Martins and Precious have been deleted here. So what if, so someone should tell me, if I wanted to delete Lovett and Martins, what would be the argument here? Anybody? Try. If I wanted to delete these 2, what would I write? I'm waiting. So someone can unmute and just tell me the answer.
Okay, I think you would start with 1, and then you specify the number of elements you want to delete, which is 2. So 1 and 2 will be the argument for the splice method.
Okay, so she's saying 1 and 2. Okay, so let's look at it. Here, Celestine has the index of 0. Lovett has the index of 1. Okay, so 1, and then I want to delete Lovett and Martins, which are 2 elements, so 2. Okay, so let's do that. 1, comma 2. Let me run it and see. Oh, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Now that's how to delete. You can specify, you can use this to empty the student array, right? You can use this to empty the student array. I can say I want to start from 0 and I want to delete 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to delete the 4 elements. Sorry. And then if I come back here and run NodeScript, you find out that before we had everything intact, then after everything is cleared, we don't have any value here. Okay, so that's how that works. Now let's see how we can use this same splice to add an element. Okay, so look at this. If I said 0, 0, right? What do you guys think will happen? Can anybody guess?
Nothing.
Yes,
Like
I can hear you actually.
nothing
Okay.
will be deleted.
Cool. Okay, so nothing is going to be deleted. So if I run that, nothing is being deleted. So I can use this to my advantage. I can say I don't want to delete anything, but I want to add something. Okay, so if you look at it, for example, I want to add a new value to this position, but I don't want to replace Lovett with that particular value, but I want it that value should be in the index of 1, but then Lovett will now have the index of 2 instead. So basically, I want to add a new value here and then shift all these other ones one index forward. Okay, so if I want to do that, I would say I want to be at the index of 1. I don't want to delete anything, but then rather I want to add a new value, and I could call that value maybe Samuel. So calling that value Samuel, if I come back here and I execute, let me clear it. I execute node and script. What we then see there is after selecting, the next value there we have is Samuel. Samuel is being added there. Then after Samuel, we then have Lovett, Martins, and Precious. So what we effectively did here is we are saying go to the index of 1, but don't delete anything. But as you're not deleting anything, add this value, right? So it's going to pick this value, add it to that position, right? And then the other values that we're supposed to follow, it's going to shift them one index, right, forward, or to the next position, one index to the next position, right? So does anybody have any question based on that? Is there any question? So someone is asking, what if the number is more than the length of the array? What if the number is more than the length of the array? I don't really get your question. Are you talking about, okay, I think I understand what you mean. So let's say the array here we have 1 0, okay, 0 1 2 3, and then maybe I want to add at the index of 5, for example, or at the index of 10, and then there's no index like that here. Let's see what is going to happen if we run that. Okay, so 1 2 3 4, it just picked that value and added it to the end instead of trying to add it to the exact index we talked about. So if the index you put there doesn't exist, it should add it to the end of that array. Okay, so love it. I hope I've answered your question. I hope that's what you were asking. Okay?
I was asking about the second argument before you talked about the addition when we're talking about removing an element from an array. So I was asking, right, like the first one is the index where you want to start removing an element, while the second one is the number of elements that you want to remove. So I was asking, what if the number you specified for the second argument is more than the total length of the array? Like what would happen at that time?
I think it's just going to empty the array and send you the empty version of the array. For example, if I said 1 and I said 20, for example, let's see. Okay, 1 and 20. Okay, sorry, 0 and 20. It's going to return an empty array to you. It will just start from wherever I want it to start and then remove whatever it sees. If the index doesn't exist, it's going to ignore that and then send you the results that's from where you said you're starting to delete from. Does it make sense to you now?
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, all right. You're welcome. I hope no other person has any question. Does anybody else have a question? Okay, so no other question. All right. Now, you can also use this to replace. You can also use splice to replace an element. Look at this. How about I want to replace Martins, right? If I want to replace Martins, what do you think I should do? Does anybody have any idea? Can anybody try? What are the arguments I should put here, or the parameters I should put here? Yeah, what are the arguments I should put in here? I want to replace Martins with Victor. So can anybody try? Anybody? Okay, someone is saying 2, 1, and Victor. Okay, nice. So 0, 1, 2. Okay, so we have 2, which is Martins. I want to delete 1, which is deleting from where that position is, right, which is Martins, and then I'll now say comma, and I'll say Victor. Cool. So I'll clear this out and then run the code. Of course, you see Martins has been replaced by Victor there at that position. All right, so I guess we are all on the same page. Let's move on to some other things. Now, this is an array. How can I test if an array has a value? Okay, or if an array has an element, right? So remember that we can test a string if it has a value, right? You can also test an array if it has a particular value. For instance, I could do this. I could say, does students include, or does it include Martins? Okay, does it include Martins? Let me clear this out, and then it should come. I should come and run it. Node index. Oh, what? Sorry, not index. Script. Of course, it shows it true because Martins exist there. Okay. So what if I try? Let me try this. What do you think is going to print? Someone should try. Someone should try. What do you think it's going to print? Someone should try. Is it going to print a true or a false? Hello. Uh, someone is saying, okay, someone is saying false. Yeah, because lowercase p. Okay, I thought you wouldn't see that. Okay, let me try that. We have a false, right? Because precious with small letter p is different from precious with capital letter P. Okay, so this is a method used to test another, or to test your array if it has a particular element. Okay, now you can also get the index of your value, right? So now there's a difference between getting the index of your value. What I just did now, right, is I'm just asking, is just like asking, does the student array contain precious? False. I was precious with a small letter p, false. But if I do this and I run it node script, of course it's going to show me a true. Okay. But what if I wanted to know the index or the position of what if I wanted to know the index of that element I'm searching for? For example, look at this. How do we do it? I would say students.index of. I'll not say, so if I said students, I want to get the index of Martins. Sorry, Martins node script.js. You see, it shows me the particular position for Martins, right? It tells me Martins has the index of, or Martins exists at the index of 2. But what if I search for something that doesn't exist in this array? It's going to return a -1. -1 means it doesn't exist. It doesn't. So if I said, let's say Victor, which is not on that array, and we run this, you'll see -1. -1 means it doesn't exist. What you're searching for doesn't exist there. Okay. Then also we have what is called the map function. Okay, we have what is called the map function. For example, you want to do something to all these the elements in this array at the same time, right? You want to apply maybe a change on all of them at the same time. What you then definitely do is you can then say students, or let's say const, let's say modified students should be equals to students dot map. And then in here, you then write a function to act on that student. Okay, so we've not talked about functions, right yet, but just do this function, and then in this function it says student, and then here you can do whatever you want to do. Now I'll just explain briefly what this function is, right? This function, what we wrote inside here is called a function, and a function is just a piece, or should I, let me say a block of code, right, that you're enclosing with square brackets. And you can also name a function. You can give a function a name, right? But it's not always compulsory to give a function a name in JavaScript. Okay, some functions are what is called anonymous functions. They are there, they can be executed, but they don't have a name. Okay, so and functions accept arguments, okay, or they accept parameters, okay, but let's not worry about that. Let's just do this. Let me return my name is, then I'll then say plus student. If you look at this, what we have here is, what is going to happen here is when we run this code, right, what is going to be saved here is going to be the modified array, which is going to make every property here contain my name is, then the name of that property. My name is the name of that property. So what I did here is I said students dot map. So what map does is while it's running, it will pick the first value of the element in your array, right? And then it will apply whatever you've written here, whatever you've returned here, right? It's going to apply it to that first element. Then it's going to save it here. Then it's going to pick the second element. It's going to pass it to this function as student. And then this student, whatever you wrote here as your return statement is going to be what is going to be stored. So what you then have inside this modified students here arrays, my name is Celestine, my name is Lovett, my name is Martins, my name is Precious. If we do that and we console.log modified students, we come here and run nodescript.js. You see that what we then have here is my name is Celestine, my name is Lovett, my name is Martins, my name is Precious. Okay. Now, it is important that when you're using a map statement, you return a value. If I remove this part of that statement and just write my name is and then students, and then we come here, you see that what we have here is undefined, 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 undefined. And that is because even if this function has done something, right, the value of, or the modified version of, or let's say this statement you've written here, right, is not being returned to be saved anywhere. It's not, it's just here. There's nothing it's used for. Like, it's not being returned to be saved as modified students. So it's important to always return when you're using map. Okay, so if we try that one more time, you see my name is Celestine, my name is Lovett, my name is Precious. Okay, now if you're not going to return a statement, you can remove this line, and then maybe you can wrap this in a console.log. Okay. Oh, can wrap that in a console.log. Okay, no need for this, or I'm sure it's actually executed. So if we call that NodeScript.js, you see my name is Celestine, my name is Loveth, my name is Martins, my name is Precious. That way. Quite simple, right? Okay. So does anybody have a question? Anybody? Any question? Nobody has a question. Okay, so let's move on. Now, we have map, right? We have map. We also have another method called for each. Okay, someone is saying I should use arrow functions. Well, we are going to go into functions as a topic. Then we are going to see arrow functions, anonymous function, and the rest. But for now, I think we should just use the normal function. Okay. Of course, if I wanted to use an anonymous function, that would just be me doing this. And of course, since I have one argument, I can remove these brackets. Definitely, I can do that. But a lot of other people might not really understand what is going on here. So that's one reason why I wouldn't use it now. Okay, so let's see. If we change this to for each, for example, and we come here and clear this and run it again, it is still going to run perfectly well. But there's a difference between for each and map. Now, the difference between for each and map is this. For each doesn't save anything you return. For each is not expecting that you should return anything from its body. It's only map that you can return values. This is what I mean. If I wanted to do the same thing I did with map here, let's say I wrote return, and then I then write const, maybe I'll just say s is equals to students dot for each, and then I come down here and say console.log s. Even if I've written my return statement well and I run this, it's going to show undefined because this doesn't expect that I should return anything. But if I did map, right, map is going to return whatever I am doing here, right? As far as there's a return statement inside this function, it's going to return it, but for each is not going to do same. Okay, someone is saying I should increase my voice. I hope it's better now. Can you hear me better?
Yes, I'm trying to. Your voice is still low, but I'm trying to.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, all right. You're welcome. So let's see what we can also do. Okay, we have map, and we know that map is used to do something consecutively to all the elements in the array. We also have another method called filter. Okay, and filter is used, as the name implies, to filter, right? So if you can use filter to search for maybe a particular value, or maybe a particular value, or a number of values, right, in an array, or you can use it to remove values from an array. For example, I can filter this array and say if only return the students where the student's name is not equals to Loveth, And what it's going to do is it's going to return all the students' names and exclude Lovett from it. So this is how I can write a filter statement. I could then say students.filter. Okay, and then I would say function. Then I could say students here. Okay. Then here I would say I want to return where the student is not equals to where the student is not equals to Martins. Okay. If I run this code now, of course, you're going to see that we have Celestine, Love, and Precious. We don't have any other, we don't have Martins there because I said return. What I'm saying here is while filtering, only return students that or return elements that is not equals to Martin. So it's going to check, is Celestine Martins? No. Okay, return it. Is Lovett Martins? No, return it. Is Martins? Ah, yes. Skip it. Is Precious Martins? No, it's not Martins. Okay, return it. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Then also we have find. Okay. Now look at this. What if we had duplicate elements? Maybe we had Martins and we had Martins here again, right? And I wanted to just pick only all the elements that were Martins. So I could say find students where those students are actually Martins. Okay, so what I'm saying here is just find students that are Martins. So if I do that and I clear my terminal and run this, you'd see Martins and Martins, right? So I'm saying return all, what I'm saying is I'm searching for Martins. So return all possible values for Martins, return all values that are Martins. Okay. But what if I just wanted to, if there were like five elements that were Martins, but I just wanted one of it, right? What I would rather do is I'll then say students.find. So there's find. So find is going to just return the first occurrence of what it sees, right? Meanwhile, filter is going to return all the occurrence of an element. So if we did that, I'd say script.js. So what you see there is just the first occurrence of that element. So even if we had two Martins, find just returns one, just returns the first occurrence of that particular element. Okay. So does anybody have a question about that? Any question? All right, so you guys don't have any questions. Okay, since someone has a question, let me see. Okay, you're saying none from me. Okay. Okay, so guys, we need to wrap up the class at this point. I know we've not exhausted the topics that we are supposed to do today, but I have some technical issues here. So for people that have submitted their task, right, I'm going to grade it later on today. So everybody's going to see their tax, their scores today, and hopefully they will be moved to the next stage. Okay. So in our next class, we are going to continue from here. We are going to continue. The next thing we are supposed to do is objects, right? So we are going to do that hopefully in our next class, and our next class is on Tuesday. Okay. So sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, someone is raising his hands. So so we are rounding up now. Okay. Thank you very much. You would ask your questions quite very soon.